Well, who thought we would be back here again? Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron Thorgi, with a second Street Fighter 6 reaction video. And if you watch this channel, you know I don't typically like to do unscripted reaction videos. Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's not a thing that I tend to do all that often. I'm not very good at it, I'll admit that. But when the original footage of Street Fighter 6 came out, when we got our first look at it, I felt something that I had not felt in a long time. Excitement for Street Fighter. And I had all these theories, and I had all this stuff I wanted to say, and then the entire roster ended up getting leaked, so yeah, I had to come in here and I had to say something about all that. And I just gushed about what we saw for the longest time. And I thought, you know what, I got it all out of my system. There's gonna be some other reveals, and I'm gonna be excited about all that. But you know what? I don't need to say anything else about Street Fighter 6 until the game is actually released. But this week, at the Tokyo Game Show, we got to see an in-depth look at not just 4 brand new characters, but at all the single-player content and the online modes and all the extra stuff being thrown in there. And oh my God, it's so much bigger than what I was expecting, and I thought my expectations were already too high to begin with. It is insane how much Street Fighter has turned everything around from Street Fighter V. Street Fighter went from having no single-player content to having all the single-player content, and I have to come in here and talk about it. I started going on and on and on Twitter about all my thoughts on this, and eventually I just realized, oh my God, I'm going to be tweeting all day, or I could just make a freaking video on this. So yes, we're making a freaking video on this. Let's start with what we got to see of the World Tour mode. We got a little bit of a glimpse of this in that original reveal, and we saw that you're going to have a creative character, and they're going to get to learn moves from the other Street Fighter characters, and you're going to get to use those in the world, and you're going to be fighting other people out there in this big open map. And when I saw that you were going to have moves that you could learn from the classic Street Fighter characters, and you could use them within this big Metro City map, because it looked huge. This map looked like it was going to be gigantic. So I had a thought. What if they made World Tour kind of like a Metroidvania thing, where you would only have access to a little bit of the map at first, but once you learn certain moves, you'd be able to use those moves in order to go to different parts of the world. Like, there's a wall that's blocking you from going to a different part of the map, but then you learn the Hadouken and you can blast that wall down, and now it's open, and now you got access to another part of the map. I'll admit, I'm a big Metroidvania fan, so that might have been my own personal bias speaking there, but I thought that could be a really cool idea. And we got an in-depth look at what the World Tour mode is like, and oh my God, it looks like they're doing that exact thing. It looks like I called it exactly. There is a moment in here in which he says, and I quote, "These moves are of course used in fights, but they can also be helpful when moving through and exploring the city." And we see like one character doing the spinning bird kick, and that spinning bird kick takes you from one ledge to another. And then you see someone using the Hadouken to blast down some barrels that were blocking off a street. And then at one point, someone does this flying kick and they land on this little tiny island surrounded by a little bit of water in there that they couldn't access before. And yeah, this is literally how you travel around in a Metroidvania. Oh my God. I'm partly just talking about this right now just to say, oh my God, I called it. But also just to say, this is so ingenious. This is incredible. It is a great way of making sure that you have freedom to explore the city, but also you get that sense of achievement. You get that sense of reward when you are able to open up a brand new section of the world. And we got to see a couple glimpses of different locations in the city, which, by the way, the more I'm looking at this city, I'm looking at some freeze frames right here. I don't know how much of this you're going to be able to explore, but even if you can only explore like just the roads and the sidewalks and stuff like that, the city itself looks gorgeous. There is so much that was designed for this city, and I have no idea how they were able to pull this off. Because for anybody who doesn't know, again, I talked about this a little bit in the previous Street Fighter video that I did, but for anybody who doesn't know, Street Fighter 5 has been in development, Street Fighter 6, you'll understand why I mixed the two up in just a second. Street Fighter 6 has been in development for a long time because apparently, according to some memos that ended up getting leaked from Capcom, apparently what they had kind of sucked. And if rumors are to be believed, they had to basically scrap everything that they had been working on and had to start fresh just like 2.5 years ago, basically when Yoshinori Ono ended up leaving the company. Again, that last part is still rumors at this point, but those internal memos of the people saying, no, what we have for Street Fighter 6 is bad. This is bad, we need to redo it. Yeah, that was all basically leaked, that was real. Which means that this big, massive world that we're looking at here was kind of just created in just the past couple years. It's not like they've been working on this for like 5 years now at this point. It's not like the moment that they finished Street Fighter 5, they're like, all right, we gotta start working on Street Fighter 6 now. No, this has not been in development for nearly as long as we think it has been, and it looks so good. And the reason why I joked a second ago about there's a reason why I screwed up Street Fighter 6 and Street Fighter 5 is because Street Fighter 5 also had that exact same thing happen during its development, where they had an idea of what they wanted to do, and they did that for like 2 years. And then they decided, this is crap, we don't like it, we have to scrap the entire thing. And Street Fighter 5 released with nothing, with like, there was no content, incredibly small roster. Yeah, it was a shame how that game ended up getting released. And now it looks like this game went through the exact same thing. And I don't know if the new guys who are in charge of Capcom's fighting game division just know what they're doing. They just had a much more clear idea of what they want in this game, and they were able to streamline the development of the whole thing so that way they could focus entirely on that and get it exactly the way they want, so that way it did not take all this time to rebuild it up from scratch. Or maybe after Capcom saw what happened with Street Fighter 5, they realized, you know what, we're making good money off of Monster Hunter and Resident Evil. Why don't we just not force you guys to rush this thing out before it's ready, and how about instead we actually just give you guys the money you need to make the game that you want? Maybe that happened. Who knows, but either way, it's really impressive that the development of Street Fighter 6 mirrored the development of Street Fighter 5 so closely, at least from what we know so far, and yet the outcome right now looks entirely different. But as I was saying, we did get to see a little bit more of the map, and there's so many Easter eggs in here. We got to see like Hagar's name being thrown around, we got to see the Master's name being thrown around in here. I am hoping that basically they're just going to take Metro City and just turn it into the World Warrior City. Basically, they're just going to say like, hey, yeah, different Street Fighter characters from all over the world, they've all come to Metro City, and some of them are just opening up their own little like pop-up shop here, but some of them have moved here, some of them now live here, and they've opened up their own businesses. You know, maybe some characters who aren't necessarily within the game itself, but you know, they moved here a couple years ago and they've opened up their own place, like Rose and Minot running their own like fortune teller booths in Metro City. That just writes itself. That is way too obvious. Yeah, there's so many different Street Fighter characters and so many different Capcom characters that you could put in Metro City and just have them be like little Easter eggs that you gotta find. Like, think about Arkham City. For anybody who is a big Batman fan, you know how many freaking Easter eggs are just hidden within Arkham City. How many little locations, like if you go to this one part at this one time and then you knock down this one door, then suddenly there's a reference to Solomon Grundy. You can do stuff like that in this map. You can do stuff with Metro City. I'm not saying you can do that as in I'm confirming that's a thing you can do in here. What I'm saying is that's a thing that you, the developers, could put into the Metro City map. And that would be just the most amazing salute to Capcom, and I think it could happen. I think that could be a thing in here, because we have already seen they're already loading this game up with as many Easter eggs and references to Capcom as they possibly can already. Because we got to see a little bit more of the different modes that you're going to have access to in this game, and there's that extreme mode that they're going to have, And the moment I saw that, my very first thought was, oh my god, they're putting Mortal Kombat style test your luck goofy little stage hazards in here. But then they went into more details about it and they revealed, oh no, you get to control which of these stage hazards it is. It isn't just a bunch of it's not 5 different random things that makes the game completely unplayable. You will get to choose. Do you want to have a bull come running in? Then you can have a bull come running in every now and again. Do you want to have little electric traps on there? Then you can have the electric traps on there. Which means it's not just random chaos like Mortal Kombat Test Your Luck, which, by the way, there is definitely an appeal to random chaos. I'm not poo-pooing on that. I definitely see why that's a fun thing to do with your friends. But by choosing which specific little hazards you want to include in here, it means it's not chaos. It means it's a different type of game. Because if you know that a bull will occasionally come running in, that adds a whole new layer of strategy to how you're going to fight that match. That is such a smart way to go about the stage hazards. And the stage hazards look interesting. Like you got the little Mega Man guys that come down in there. Oh my goodness, that little Mega Man guy looks really freaking good. Maybe that's them testing out designs for a couple of guys that could be in a new Mega Man game on the RE engine. I don't know, I'm just running on hopium over here. And also within the Battle Hub, we saw that there was going to be those little arcade machines in there, and I don't remember if I said this one in the video that we did last time or if I said it on Twitch at some point in time, but I definitely said this, and I know I'm not the only one. I'm not trying to stand in here and say I called this one. No, a lot of people were asking for this. A lot of people saw those arcade cabinets they had there in the Battle Hub, and they're like, what if you could just play classic Capcom games? What if you could just play some classic Street Fighter games in there? And they confirmed that's exactly what they're doing. This isn't an example, by the way, of them listening to the fans. This is an example of them knowing what the fans would want before the fans could even ask for it. They are putting classic Capcom arcade games into the Battle Hub that you can go and play. And the way that they phrased it, it made it sound like it was going to be a rotating thing. Like every couple of weeks, they're going to change out what arcade games you can play in there and put in brand new arcade games. And that is so freaking smart because not only does that mean that players will get to experience different games because, listen, a lot of those arcade games, they're not that long. So if you just give us 3 or 4 different games, we're all going to play through them within the first couple of weeks and then we probably won't go back to them. This means we'll have a reason to keep going back to them over and over again. But just speaking from a business standpoint, that's also an incredibly smart decision on their part because Capcom has the Capcom Arcade Stadium, where you can just buy any of these old arcade games anytime that you want to own yourself. It's yours and you can play it anytime that you want. So they put in there an old arcade game and you test it out and you go, wow, I really like this thing. I would like to play more of this. Oh, the 2 weeks are up and now we're moving on to the next game and that game I liked has been cycled out and I'll never be able to play it again. Wait a minute. I can play it again because I can just pay $3.99 or $4.99 or however much the games on there cost. I don't know. I've never actually really used the Capcom Arcade Stadium because I've actually already owned most of those games the last time they re-released them. But yes, if you like that game that you played for a few weeks in the Battle Hub and now it's gone, Capcom gave you a taste of it, and now you can go to Capcom and give them money to have it forever. That's just an insanely smart idea on Capcom's part. But yeah, you've got the World Tour map, and now you've also got the Capcom Arcade Stadium sampler pack in there, and then you've also got the Extreme Battles in there with the Test Your Luck and Tekken Ball. They brought the Tekken Volleyball game from Tekken 3 back. It's in here now. I looked at that moment in which Guile and Chun-Li were fighting with a little volleyball back and forth. I went, I know what that is. I know what you're referencing. It's literally like the guys who are making this game just said, we like fighting games. We play other fighting games. We're going to see what we like in the other fighting games and just put them in Street Fighter. We're just going to pick that stuff up and just put it in Street Fighter. I mean, heck, you could even say that World Tour mode is kind of like the Mortal Kombat Deception Conquest mode? That's what it was called, Conquest mode. Yeah, it's wild how many different things you can look at in Street Fighter 6 and go, oh wow, I see where their influence is coming from on this. So okay, World Tour mode, Tekken Ball, Mortal Kombat Test Your Luck, Capcom Arcade Stadium Sampler Pack. There's so much single player content in here. And hey man, for all we know, there might still be a story mode on the way, and God, I really hope there's just a basic arcade mode in here. That would be insane to me if after what happened with Street Fighter V, they also did include basic arcade mode with an arcade ending. That would be wild. But yeah, even without confirmation of a story mode or an arcade mode or anything like that, that's still so much single-player content in here. And I've been meaning to make a video on this for the longest time. This has been a very busy year for us, so there's a lot of stuff that I want to do this year that so far I haven't gotten to, but I am definitely going to try and get a video on this out before the end of the year. I want to do a video in which I just talk about the importance of single-player content in fighting games. Because believe me, it is a very important thing, and I think that over the past couple of years, way more people have realized that, partly due to Street Fighter V. But yeah, a lot of people have begun to realize the importance of single-player content, and it's very clear that the new guys running Capcom's fighting game department realize the importance of single-player content. And I was looking at everything that they're providing, and I realized Street Fighter VI is going to give people what any modern-day fighting game needs to give people. A way to enjoy the game over and over again for hours on end, week after week, without ever having to go online. And I am serious about that. That's not a joke. You need to give people a way to enjoy your fighting game over and over again without ever having to go online. And for anybody out there who thinks that I'm insulting online or anything like that, of course not. No. God, online play is absolutely important. But everyone talks about that. Everyone talks about the importance of good online play, of good different matchmaking settings, of good rollback netcode. Everybody talks about that. But I think people also need to talk about the importance of good single-player content. And as I said, more people are talking about. But I definitely think that's one of those things that you need to make sure you focus on that. You can't just skimp out on that anymore. I mean, let's look at raw sales numbers here. Mortal Kombat 11 and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate sold higher than any other modern-day fighting game. And you could definitely argue that when it comes to Smash Bros, part of that is the crossover factor, the massive roster of characters in there, that absolutely plays into it. However, Smash Bros also has a lot of single-player content. And do you know what Mortal Kombat has? A lot of single-player content. And the reason why Mortal Kombat sells so insanely well is because, hey, part of it is nostalgia. People who grew up with it, they know it, they love that game, so they want to return to it. Part of it is also the gore. I'll admit that does appeal to a specific audience out there. However, that gore does also keep it from being legally sold in many other locations around the world, so that actually cuts down on some of its sales. But the other big reason why Mortal Kombat sells so much is because when the arcade scene was dying, Mortal Kombat was the franchise that realized we have to make this a home console game now. This is no longer a game in which you go up to the machine, put your quarter in, and then you get to play a match against someone else or go through the arcade mode. We need to make sure that people at home have a ton of content that will keep them coming back and playing again and again and again. And they have continued to lean into that for many, many years, and that is why Mortal Kombat sells so insanely well. It's because all those people out there who like fighting games but hate going online, they know Mortal Kombat has their back. And when I look at this Street Fighter, I go, oh my god, Street Fighter is doing that too. Because I know people who want to get into fighting games. I know people who have told me they like the characters, they like looking at fighting games, but they have zero interest in going online. And to those people, I can now hand them a copy of Street Fighter VI, and I can tell them to enjoy. And again, for anybody out there who is thinking that I'm trying to take away from the importance of online play with this, or I'm trying to diminish the importance of online play, I am not. We all know that online play is important. But if you are trying to start some kind of a weird war in your head between the online players and the offline players and the people who want single player content, let me just put it to you like this. If you want more people to play your game online, a real good way to achieve that is to give them stuff they can do offline. Because if they don't want to go online, they're not going to go online. But if they play a lot of stuff offline and they're enjoying it, eventually there will come that point in which they say, you know what, I'd like to do more with this game. I've done all the offline stuff, but I feel like there's even more I want to do with it. Maybe I can try online. Trust me, if you care about getting people to play your game online, yeah, good matchmaking, good rollback, all that stuff is absolutely important. But also giving those players who don't want to go online a reason to keep playing this game until they do want to go online is also very important. And man, it looks like this game is going to do that. We also got to see 4 returning characters come in here, and we got to finally see what they're going to look like in Street Fighter 6. We got to see Blanka, Dhalsim, E Honda, and Ken. And I would say Ken is the character, at least from the returning cast, that people were most excited to see. Because, man, there have been so many rumors going around about Ken. We all saw Ken's redesign. We all saw how he looks scruffier now. He's not smiling as much. He looks kind of beaten down. He's got Terry Bogard's Galro jacket on him. And there were all those rumors going around that there was one rumor that it was so specific, we all should have known it was fake. Anytime that rumors are this specific, you know it's fake. But the rumor was that Ken was upset that he couldn't go out and train like Ryu. So he decided to lean harder into his training until his wife didn't want to be around him anymore. So she took their son and left. And now Ken has no job and he's been divorced and he's out there trying to be like Ryu. But because he's so depressed about what happened to him and his wife, he can't do his old moves as well as he used to be able to do them. That is so specific. We all should have known that was bullcrap. But that was the rumor that picked up steam. Everybody was talking about Ken and everybody was saying, oh my God, Ken, he's divorced. Ken's wife ended up leaving him and he took the kid and now he's got no money and oh God, what's gonna happen to Ken? Oh, poor Ken. And yeah, man, I felt bad about that. Partly because, yeah, I really like Ken and I didn't want to really see him go down the sad road. I didn't want to see like, oh yeah, his big character development is he's sad and he's lost everything. I understand people wanting character development. I understand people wanting character development in their fighting games. I absolutely get that. I understand them wanting the characters to change and grow from one installment to another. But when your idea of character development is, well, he's sad now. I'm like, that's kind of like what an edgy teenager thinks character development is like. I don't know, just taking everything away from someone. That seems like such a basic, simple idea of character development. And it really just kind of is there to, you know, torture the fans of that character, I guess. So yeah, I wasn't really looking forward to that because I am a Ken fan, as I said. And also because, listen, we all know what happened to Ken in Street Fighter V. We all know the banana hair debacle. We all know how bad he looked in Street Fighter V. So to see the character go from getting no respect in Street Fighter V to now getting no respect in Street Fighter 6, yeah, it didn't sound good. But we have now seen how he plays, and he can definitely do all of his old moves just fine. So that part of the rumor is gone. And then on the Capcom website, they released the official character bio for him in here. It's not long, just a small little thing. But the official character bio for him says, and I'm going to quote this directly, Ken, former US National Fighting Champ and ex-VP of the Masters Foundation, accusations of orchestrating a criminal plot have forced Ken to abandon his family and business and go into hiding. We already know from that first trailer that the Mad Gear gang is back. At least Damned is. We saw Damned in there. We saw he's got a whole new gang of people in there. They are overrunning Metro City. And we know from Street Fighter V, Hagar popped up in there. And he said that the Mad Gear gang was back. And that they need to do something about the Mad Gear gang. And this whole game is now set in Metro City. The Mad Gear gang is definitely a big part of whatever the story is that's going on. We all thought that Ken got divorced and now he's going through a sad midlife crisis as he's trying to get back to his youth and he's trying to get back to fighting alongside Ryu, but he abandoned everything they had in order to get that, and oh no, poor Ken. And that's not what it is. The Mad Gear gang framed Ken and now he's on the run trying to clear his good name. This went from sad character turn into badass action movie plot. Ken Masters is now the Liam Neeson of Street Fighter. This is such a better turn because, A, for all those people out there who are like, oh man, I'm sad it's not divorced sad Ken because that was character development. Ken losing everything and having to hit the streets without all of his resources in order to clear his good name, that's some pretty good character development and it's a good plot. I mean, what's the plot of Ken just getting divorced? Ken's sad now. Well, what's his goal? I don't know, he's sad now. Ken has a goal now. And he's got challenges that he never had before. Ken now has to use resources that he never knew he had. He's gonna have to team up with old friends in a brand new way. Yeah, this is character development. This is a new story for Ken. And it's a badass story too. This sounds like something out of a 90s action film. And you know something? Street Fighter is a 90s action film. Man, this is something I would love to see happen. If Ken is going out there on his own, to try and take down the Mad Gear gang, I would love to see Ken try and form a team. He's got to get some folks together to help him take down the Mad Gear. And a lot of people are asking where Cody is, where all the other, not Fatal Fury, sorry. To this day, I did an hour-and-a-half long retrospective on Fatal Fury, and to this day, I still confuse Fatal Fury and Final Fight. But people are asking where Cody is, where Guy is, where all the other Final Fight characters are. It would be great to see, like, Ken now has to join up with them to go and take down the Mad Gear gang. But Ken's got his own little supporting cast of characters. Yeah, that'd be an amazing way to introduce Sean. I mentioned this. We did a video last year about what I would want to see in Street Fighter 6. And what I said is, I would love it if every season of DLC wasn't just random characters, but instead every season of DLC followed some kind of a plot. And with every season of DLC, we didn't just get 6 characters, we also got a tiny bit of story. And with this giant Metro City map, you could easily do that. You could easily just say, oh hey, there's a new side quest that you can follow with this new season of DLC. Just go to this guy and talk to him and he'll start you on the side quest, and then you go over to this place and talk to this person, because yeah, creating a brand new story mode with every season of DLC, that would be hard to do. But if everything happens within this same one map that you've already made, you could absolutely do that. So imagine if we get a season of DLC that's all about Ken and his new team having to take on the Mad Gear gang, and then you get 6 brand new characters who all either have a connection to Ken or they've got something against the Mad Gear gang. You have him team up with Cody, you have him team up with Poison, because last I heard, I think she is split off from the Mad Gear gang? It's been a while since I played through Poison's story in Street Fighter V. But yeah, and then you bring in Sean, you bring in Laura. There's so much you can freaking do with this. I cannot tell you how weird it is to be this excited for Street Fighter again after so many years of Street Fighter V. We also, as I said, got to see Dhalsim, E Honda, Blanka. I think they all look just fine. I think there's some really good stuff in there. The fact that Blanka can now supercharge his Blanka-chan dolls, and they just like, it's like Faust. It's Faust in Guilty Gear. Let's be real. Because as I said, the developers of Street Fighter 6 clearly are people who like fighting games, and they're just gonna take whatever they like from another fighting game and point it in this fighting game. And I am A-okay with that. Although I will say, I really like all the redesigns. I so far have not had any problems with the more realistic designs, because as I mentioned in that last video, the thing that I like about Street Fighter, a lot of people said, oh, the art style of Street Fighter is so anime. It was really only anime in the alpha games, which admittedly were my favorite of them. But yeah, those were the only ones that I really thought actually looked anime. Or at least like what people stereotypically think of as anime. I thought the rest of them all had their own unique looks to them. But the one thing that to me really captures Street Fighter and the art style of Street Fighter is color. It's bright, shining, explosive colors, and this game literally has explosive colors. Yeah, it's nailing it. This looks like Street Fighter to me. So I have not had a problem with any of the redesigns. Blanka's head looks a little bit odd to me, and I think I know why. It's because looking at the side of his head, I can't help but, as a big fan of cheesy B horror films, I can't help but look at his head and see Rawhead Rex. I know it's just me. I know no one else is going to see that. Until now, when I put it up on screen, and I apologize for that, because you're never going to be able to not see that. But yeah, that's the only one that I kind of have a little bit of a problem with, but I do like that, again, just talking about these character stories, we know that Blanka is now a tour guide for the Amazon so that he can raise money for his family. He gives little tour guides of the jungle, and then he sells his little Blanka-chan dolls so he can raise money for his family. Man, I love that Blanka's whole storyline was he had to find his mom again, and he found his mom again. Well, now what is he going to do? He's going to be a good boy, and he's going to support his family. He's going to help his mom out. He's going to get a job. Blanka is progressing as a human being. Good for him. I'm very proud of Blanka. But yeah, Blanka, E. Honda, Dhalsim, they all look really darn good. And again, it just kind of like tells me that this combat is going to be fantastic. And my favorite thing that I saw from the combat in this little presentation was, I mentioned this when we were talking about the new gauges that you have in there. This gauge that allows you to use it for like 9 or 10 different purposes in there. Like, there's so much stuff that you can do with it. Use it for pretty much everything except for your supers. I mentioned that I love that you're going to use that little drive gauge up there in order to do your EX moves. Because I fully understand the point of EX moves. It's not just doing extra damage, it's that EX moves can set up for different stuff. They can link together moves that could never link together before, or they can open you up for something that you could never use before. Yeah, EX moves have so many purposes in fighting games, beyond just doing more damage. But I will admit, I am one of those basic casual players that all you guys make fun of, who likes to just save his bar of super for a super. I like to save up the super meter in order to do the big flashy super move, and it just is so beautiful to me that this game does not let you do that. You don't spin the super meter to do EX moves. The drive gauge up there is spent for the EX moves. The super meter has only one purpose, to do supers. And there's a moment in there in which you see Ken's brand new overhead kick, which, by the way, Ken now has an overhead kick, he's got a leather jacket, he's homeless, and he's fighting mob bosses. He's literally just Terry Bogard. But yeah, you see Ken doing this brand new move of his, and he does the EX version of it, and it ends up causing a ground bounce. And I looked at that and went, oh my god, because I now no longer have to choose between super and EX move. I can go into that move, do the EX version of it, land the ground bounce, and then lead into Ken's big level 3 super with it. You know what we call that? Fun. That's fun. It's fun to do stuff like that, and Street Fighter's gonna let me do stuff like that now. But that's just the stuff that we saw on the first day. There were 2 days of this, and luckily, not a whole lot got shown off on the second day. And by not a lot, I mean everything got shown off on the second day, but only little glimpses of it. Basically, we got to see the opening of the World Tour modes, they got to see the character creator, you got to see going in there and train with Luke, which let me just say, I know I've been very negative on Luke. Luke's starting to grow on me. I think by not having him be the young, spunky kid who's got all the attitude, and instead he's a coach who's training people, I'm like, okay, that's actually more mature, and that's actually kind of different. We've never really had a coach as a protagonist of a game before, so we've never had like the mentor kind of character as a protagonist, so okay, that's not bad, and he definitely doesn't seem as in your face, and how is it that I described him? Oh yeah, I described him as being the hello fellow kids character. Because in Street Fighter V, he really, like almost all of his win quotes just felt like someone trying to write what they thought a young, cool kid would say. He doesn't feel that way anymore. So I am starting to lighten up on Luke. I am starting to like him more. I still think his hair is a little bit too much. But yeah, I'm starting to like him more. So we got to see Luke in there. He's trained ya. That was some good stuff. But then we got introduced to this brand new character who is definitely going to be the rival of the World Tour story mode for you. And what's wild is, this is not a character in the game itself. This is not a character that was in that leaked roster. This is a brand new character who isn't just some character that got randomly put together by the character creator for you to go up against. No, you look at this character and you go, that's a character with a design. That is a character that they sat down with a piece of paper and a pencil and they designed this character. And they gave them a name. If this character does not eventually end up becoming playable in this game, I will be shocked. However, speaking of playable characters, Capcom finally just threw up their hands and said, alright, you've all seen the leaked roster. We all know that you know who these characters are. Here they all are. And they played for us the opening of the World Tour mode, which totally had Third Strike vibes to it. It totally just reminded me of the opening to Third Strike. At least the Third Strike when it came to the PS3 and the Xbox 360. I can't remember the official name that they gave to that version, but yeah, it totally had that vibe to me. But it showed every single character. It showed artwork of every single character, which means I no longer have to dance around them and pretend like maybe we've seen it, maybe we haven't. No, we've all seen them now. And I mentioned this the last time that we talked about Street Fighter 6, when that first big reveal came around, and that big roster leak came out. There was a character in there, a very fancy-looking character named JP, and I looked at him and I said, that character is going to be the villain, and I bet he is in some way tied to G and Q, because again, going back to that video we made last year about the stuff that I would love to see in Street Fighter 6, I talked about loose threads, I talked about storylines that hadn't been wrapped up yet. G was definitely hinting at things to come. And we already had G and we had Q. I said the next villain needs to be somebody else who is tied to G and Q, and he's just got letters in his name. Which, okay, we all have letters in our name, but you know what I mean. And then this guy pops up, and his name is JP. And JP is a name that people have. I have met people who have those initials. However, yeah, it's just 2 letters. This guy is totally tied to G and Q. In fact, there's even one moment that flashes up on screen in which I had to stop because it's JP, but he's wearing a hat, and I looked at him and I thought it was G. I could have sworn that was G up on screen, but no, it was JP. And there's another moment in which you're seeing all these characters flash up on screen and they've got words associated with them. The word associated with JP is authority. He is totally the villain of the game. In fact, I said that Ken probably got framed by the Mad Gear Gang. The Mad Gear Gang is insanely incompetent. No way are they organizing themselves. I would not be shocked if JP was somehow tied to what's going on with Ken as well. But we got to see the entire full starting roster, and they confirmed that is the starting roster. They're not hiding anybody. The starting roster is going to have 18 characters, which is okay. That's fine. It's, yeah, I feel a little bit weird about it because of a couple of reasons. One, when Street Fighter V came out, it only had 16 characters, and everybody said that is way too few. And this is more. This is indeed more than that. So good on you for that. I'm glad that we're getting more than Street Fighter V's. But it's still way behind what we get with, like, say, Tekken or Mortal Kombat or a lot of the other really big major fighting game franchises out there. This is the kind of thing that, you know, listen, if Guilty Gear launched with 18 characters, wow, that's incredible. Guilty Gear has no money. It's insane that they were able to do that. But Street Fighter, yeah, you'd kind of hope they would get a little bit more. But then again, as I said, this game had a very troubled development. This is a game where they more than likely had to scrap a lot of things they were working on just 2.5 years ago, so they haven't been working on this thing nearly as long as we would like to think they've been working on this thing. So yeah, it's understandable that it wouldn't be as big of a roster as we might like it to be. And another thing that people are bringing up about this roster is that the leaked roster that came out had 22 characters on there. And I brought this up when we talked about the leaked roster. I said, listen, Capcom, I understand that you work on the DLC characters at the same time that you're working on the main roster. I understand that it is just a good idea for every company out there to also map out their DLC as they're working on the main roster. So there is a good chance that some of those characters are going to be DLC, but you gotta realize you are a company who has done some really shady stuff with your fighting game DLC, like 3 or 4 games in a row now. So everybody is kind of keeping an eye on you when it comes to DLC for your fighting games, and we're all kind of nervous about what you're going to do. So don't do that thing where we see 22 characters, and then you come in here and you reveal that 6 of them are going to be DLC. That's going to leave a bad taste in people's mouths. And 6 of them are not DLC. 4 of them are. So it's not really a bad taste in my mouth, but it's not a good taste either. It's more like, oh, well, alright, that's acceptable. Which, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this starting roster. 18 characters, that's an acceptable number. Okay. And oh, 4 of them are going to be DLC, but, well, I guess that's better than 6 of them being DLC, so that's okay. However, the one thing that I do have a problem with, and this is something that Street Fighter just has to get through its head, they have to stop doing this. When Street Fighter 3 initially came out, they got rid of all the old characters except for Ryu and Ken. And Street Fighter 3, when it initially launched, did not do well. It took a long time for that game to become a success. And that scared the crap out of Capcom. Because when Street Fighter 4 came around, they made sure that that entire starting roster contained all the characters from Street Fighter 2. And you know what? That was a good idea. Street Fighter had been gone for a while. That last game was very different. So this game, they knew they needed to bring everybody back around. I mean, Capcom didn't even have plans to continue Street Fighter at that point in time. So they definitely needed to rely on that nostalgia money. They needed to bring back the nostalgia crowd. So loading all the Street Fighter 2 characters into Street Fighter 4, it just made sense. I know that Street Fighter 5 took, like Street Fighter 3, took a long time to become a success. And a lot of people felt very meh on that game. And they've been waiting for that thing to make them excited again. Between 8 and 10 characters up there, depending on how you define it, are all from Street Fighter 2. You've got the original 8 characters from Street Fighter 2. The original 8 playable characters, because there were some unplayable bosses in the original release of Street Fighter 2. I should point that out. But the original 8 playable characters from Street Fighter 2 are in there. And then you've also got Cammy. And you've also got DJ, which I hinted at this when we initially talked about the leaks. I didn't want to name any actual character names for fear of Capcom getting mad at me. But I did say that when you put your roster together, you need that weird pick. That pick that no one is expecting. DJ is indeed the weird pick. No one was expecting DJ in here. So, hey, as a fan of weird picks, alright. Kinda feel like there were maybe some better weird picks in there. But hey, you got the weird pick in there. I'm fine with that. But yeah, that means that if you're talking about Street Fighter 2 by including every single incarnation of Street Fighter 2, that means 10 out of the 18 characters are all from that one game. They are all from Street Fighter 2. More than half the cast is from Street Fighter 2. You guys gotta let Street Fighter 2 go. I know that it is the most iconic Street Fighter. I know that it is the thing that created the fighting game genre as we know it today. But man, there's been a lot that has gotten me excited about this Street Fighter. Street Fighter 6 looks so good for so many different reasons. But one of the things that has me the most excited is that we are finally moving past Street Fighter 2. This is the first game to ever actually be canonically set after Street Fighter 3. And the fact that they're still like, no, we have to include the entire starting cast of Street Fighter 2. We have to make sure that more than half this cast is from Street Fighter 2. I'm just looking at that like, guys, it's okay. We're okay with letting a lot of these characters go. Like, let's be real, I don't mean to insult any of the Dhalsim or E Honda or Blanka fans out there, but you know in your heart of hearts, if those characters didn't first appear in Street Fighter 2 and instead they first appeared in Street Fighter Alpha or Street Fighter 3, you would probably have never seen them again. Maybe one of them would have returned. Ono really loved Blanka. Blanka would have probably kept coming back, but you know E Honda would not have been back. Dhalsim might have been back for one version of Street Fighter 4, maybe as the surprise pick of Street Fighter 5, but they definitely wouldn't be in this game here. I love all the new characters that we've gotten. I think all the new characters we've gotten are great, and I think that the redesigns of the older characters are really great. I think they are doing interesting things with this roster. But I don't think that the roster itself, just looking at the characters themselves, I don't think that's interesting enough on its own. And it is all sadly because there's just too much Street Fighter 2 nostalgia in there, and I do feel like Capcom needs to move past that. However, even with that being said, I still think that this roster is okay. And even if the roster was terrible, everything else that I have talked about in this video up to this point has been so good and has gotten me so excited that, yeah, I can kind of overlook any problems that I have with this roster. It just goes to show that as long as you do really interesting stuff with the combat, if you do really interesting stuff with all the different modes, if you provide a lot of really interesting single-player content in this game and make it look insanely good, then yeah, I can overlook maybe not having as many characters as I wanted. But let me know what you guys thought. I know that I'm kind of ending on a little bit of a sour note, but again, I gotta stress this. I don't hate this roster. I just think it's alright. It's alright. But everything else in this game looks so freaking darn good. So do you guys agree with me on that? Do you guys think that the roster is just fine as it is? Is it a huge problem? Do you not like any of the other stuff that I was gushing about? Let me know all that stuff down in the comments down below. And as I said, I don't normally do these big trailer reaction videos or analysis videos or theory videos like this. So if you want to see more stuff like that, let me know down in the comments below. Or if you want to see me gush even more about Street Fighter, follow me on Twitter, because I can guarantee I'm going to be doing that for quite some time now. You can follow me on Twitter at Thorgi's Arcade, and also make sure to go and follow us over on Twitch at Professor Thorgi, because starting not next week, but the week after that, the final week of September, we are finally going to be starting this year's annual Fight for the Future charity stream. It's a charity stream that we do every single year in order to raise money for good causes. I will be making the official announcement video about this with all the details and the whole schedule in the next few days up here on the YouTube channel, but make sure you go and follow the Twitch channel, because that's where it's going to be in the final week of September. So, again, thank you guys for tuning in. Oh man, it feels so good to just go on and on about Street Fighter. So, again, thank you guys very much for tuning in. Stay safe out there. Come back next time.